So my favorite book that I've ever read is...
My favorite book is...
One of my favorite childhood books growing up was...
My favorite book is...
My favorite book is...
One of my favorite books, and this was from high school, was...
The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov.
Charlotte's Web, written by E.B. White.
City of Bones by Cassandra Clare.
Proxy by Alex London.
Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka.
I remember reading it in 7th grade English class and how I thought that any school book was dumb and that I just wanted to read whatever I wanted to read. And then I started reading it and I couldn't put it down.
I read it in my junior year of high school after my dad bought it for me when librarians refused to rent a book to who they thought was a 12-year-old. I was 17. They didn't believe me. And Lolita, if you didn't know, is the story of Humbert Humbert and his obsessive attraction to this preteen girl that he calls Lolita and all the horrible things that happens because of it.
And I remember myself loving it so much because it was very like fantasy and requires your imagination in one aspect, but then the relationship between Wilbur and Charlotte, I remember, was so real. And it taught me so much about being a good friend and truly appreciating family as much as, you know, the fantasy elements to it. So I really loved that book.
It was my favorite book because in public schools you're not always exposed to the arts, and it was such a creative outlet for me because it was one of the first times I was exposed to this sort of fantasy world that City of Bones kind of covers.
It's my favorite because it involves LGBTQ characters, which is awesome and something you definitely don't see enough in books, and it's also science fiction and fantasy, so that's a really underrepresented genre. And also the characters in it are really heartfelt and really real, and I love them a lot. I can relate to them, which is awesome.
I just loved the imagination and the story behind it and all the details. It's a very weird story, but I love weird stories, and it's something that I truly think is special.